Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're watching from. Thanks so much for joining us here for the season finale of the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series here on Apex Racing TV. I am Tyler Newitt, joined as always in the commentary booth by Tim Cox, with the great John Grabowski running the production and everything behind the scenes for us. We have just seen qualifying wrap up for the championship race. And it is a driver who is perhaps a little out of championship contention who grabs the pole. That's going to be Bruce Lukens. But the two title favorites, Lawrence Zavadil and Ezra Kelderman, are hot on his heels. So we're going to have a great run to the finish of the race and the finish of the season for you today, I'm sure. Closing race of the season here at Sebring, where we've just, of course, seen the Sebring 12 hours and the real life IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge that runs these GT4 cars. So the drivers, I'm sure, will be familiar with the track from the television at the very least. But we've got the endurance format for this one for you. So we've got a full hour of racing to enjoy with pit stops expected. So not the usual sprint feature format that we have here in the Colorado Karting Tour Winter Series. But Tim, it's been a really entertaining season so far. We know we've got some great prizes that these drivers are fighting for, but they're also fighting for one more race win out there.
Yes, it's been a great weekend of motorsport here at Sebring, as you mentioned, with the Michelin Pilot Challenge, IMSA, and of course on Friday, the World Endurance Championship also appearing here as well. And, I think this could be potentially the jewel in the crown of all of them in the Colorado Karting Tour. And like you say, it's still so much up for grabs. And wow, it's going to be fascinating to see who comes out victorious. And luckily, we don't have that long to wait. In the next hour, we'll find out who's been crowned champion and who's going to snatch the victory here today in Florida.
Absolutely. Qualifying just ticking over there. And we will have field lining up. There is your grid. So, as mentioned, Bruce Lukens grabbing the pole position ahead of his teammate Lawrence Zavadil and Ezra Kelderman. Zavadil's main title rival sits in third place ahead of Floyd Kerr, the first non-McLaren on the grid in his Aston Martin. Michael Keltner lines up fourth. He's jumped the ship to the McLaren for this week. Kenny Schmid sticking to the Porsche lines up sixth. Then it's Rob Hubrex in seventh. Trace Walker in eighth. Danny Lopez in ninth, Aaron Botnick in 10th. Jeremy Davis lines up 11th, Mike James in 12th. Behind them, it's Michael Herring and Rob Holubar. Zach Peterson is 15th, Armand Gavorkian is 16th. Mark Sherman rolls off 17th, Ben Jolly in 18th, Brian Bruzzi 19th, and rounding out the field is Jeff Mayers in 20th. So the field getting ready to take the green here. We'll have the full pace lap, it looks like, so plenty of time to talk about what we can expect from these drivers today. We're also planning to have another chat with Point Karting's Eric Gunderson, who we've talked to a couple times already this season, but Eric will be joining us a little bit later. We see the field getting ready to roll here. Everybody's gridded up, and Tim, it was a really tremendous race at VIR last time around for a track that doesn't always facilitate the best of racing. We saw some really fantastic battles, including between title favorites Ezra Kelderman and Lawrence Zavadil.
Like you say, summed it up perfectly there, Tyler. A track that normally doesn't invoke the best of racing in terms of overtaking opportunities. I mean, it's an absolutely brilliant track to drive on, a real driver's track. However, I think we had quite possibly one of our most eventful races of the season there, ironically. And as you said, so many great battles, so many twists and turns to the storyline and the narrative, and with the drama and the excitement. And, well, what can we say about Sebring? It equally another track that's, well, notoriously bumpy as Sebring is, has a lot more overtaking opportunities, and with the championship on the line in the final round of the season and last chance to move up through the championship standings, it's going to be interesting to see how some of the drivers plays out. Might see a few more riskier moves, especially when we head into the second half of the race as well. And I can't wait for this to begin. It's so crucial, of course, that exit out of Le Mans curve, the second to last corners, to make sure you get the long run, the best run down the Ullman Straight, and then, of course, Sunset Bend. Just how brave can you be by getting up close and personal to the wall on the inside and then the wall on the exit to ensure you've got the best possible run out of there down to turn one, which equally brings its own excitement and drama of, again, how do you dare get to the wall on the inside? And it's a little bit like threading the eye of the needle in some ways, because coming up fast towards you is the dirt on the outside of the corner, on the corner exit. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, as we saw as well in IMSA, the pit exit is a little bit tricky, and cars that maybe are a lap down just need to be wary of the leaders, or the other cars coming through, because as we saw in IMSA, you can have contact there on the exit, and it's just fraught with danger, drama, and excitement this circuit. I can't wait for this one to begin, Tyler. It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. We should now be joined in the booth by Eric Gunderson. Are you there, Eric?
Me?
Yeah, we got you there, Eric. We are just seeing the cars head down the back straight now, and we will pause our chat with you to catch the start. But before we get there, obviously we've had the fortune to talk with you a couple of times already this season. Who is your pick? Who's your favorite to claim the championship here today?
Well, I think you have to go with Lawrence.
Yeah, certainly Lawrence has the points in hand advantage and has the higher starting position today over Ezra Kelderman as the field works their way through Sunset Bend, probably the most famous corner at the Sebring International Raceway. Bruce Lukens in control of the field, sets off on his way, headed towards turn one. It can be a bit of a danger point, Tim, we know that. We'll see how the field works their way through. So far, so good. Zavadil challenging on the inside of Lukens, but they keep it clean. Not seeing too much contact. The track does tighten up, but it looks like everyone is through cleanly.
Well, interestingly, Foyker's made it past Ezra Kelderman. So that has big implications for the championship already in these early stages, and not the best start that Kelderman would have wanted.
Yeah, certainly. It's not what Ezra needs, but it is a long race, and of course the the big deal here for Ezra Kelderman is if you look at the championship, Ezra has just kind of been steady hammering away at it all season, but where he made the big points gain on Lawrence Zavadil was one of our other endurance events at Daytona. Double points for these endurance races. Zavadil had a bad showing, and Ezra, steady as he was on the podium there, made up significant amount of points on Lawrence Zavadil. So long way to go in this one, and still time for that to shake out. Now, Eric, I've been reliably informed that you have some insights as to the championship picture where it stands right now.
I do. To be honest,
Oh, sorry to cut you off there, Eric. We've had an issue on track for Kenny Schmid. Tough break for Kenny, who's had a rough go of it, and now Michael Keltner falling down the order. So a couple of drivers. Kenny looked like he lost it in Tower Turn. Keltner's lost it on the run up to Le Mans, I think. Don't know if either had help, but I'm sure we'll see a replay here. But Eric, you were saying.
Well, I think as long as Zavadil can keep it consistent and within the top 8, he's likely to clinch the championship unofficially. However, if he were to have a DNF for a mechanical or for a driving error, then Kelderman can leapfrog him into the lead for the championship, unofficially. So likely what we're going to see here is Zavadil hold his position. But in order for Kelderman to take it, it would require Zavadil to finish outside of the top 8 and Kelderman to actually win the race. And then for our third place championship contender to win overall Keltner, both Zavadil and Kelderman would have to have some significant misfortune.
Now, how safe is Keltner in that third position? Because we've already seen him have a spin. We just saw the replay there going through the section that leads onto the back straightaway. Is he under threat to that final prize-paying position?
I would say, assuming he can get it on track, probably not, because Kenny...
We lost you there, Eric, but I think you were about to say Kenny Schmid is his closest title challenger, and of course, Kenny, if I'm not mistaken, not eligible for prizes as he's already a Colorado Karting Tour member, and Kenny's also had a spin on that first lap, so double compounding, helping out Michael Keltner's case there for that third position in the championship standings.
That is correct, currently as everyone.
Awesome, Eric. And we keep bringing up these prizes. Obviously, we've gone through them with you when you've been on here before, but just to reiterate for everybody, because it really is fantastic what Point Karting has on offer here for these guys.
So the goal the whole season has been to bring some folks that are active in iRacing and interested in the Colorado Karting Tour and in the Rocky Mountain region to real life karting events and check out all that CKT has to offer. So the top 3 finishers that are non-current CKT Colorado Karting Tour members will get some opportunities to get on track in real life racing go-karts. Our champion will get a full arrive and drive race at a CKT event with some prior practice. And then second and third will also get some what are called tri-karting days with point karting, basically a day to come out and drive a racing go-kart and have a lot of fun.
And I just can't help but get a little envious every time you mention it because you know, I'm a little far away to hop over for an arrive and drive karting day, but man, I would like to. But really, we've got some contact there. That was Peterson, and I think that was Jeremy Davis who he made contact with. Davis in the Porsche now, just coming through onto Big Ben there, and I couldn't tell who squeezed who, but there was definitely a little side-to-side contact. And Tim, that section gets quite tight, doesn't it? It can really pinch up in a hurry, as many of the sections of Sebring do.
It can do indeed. It is so tricky here, and they just see what happens when you get a bit too up close and personal with one another. Just while we're watching the previous replays, something happened to Gavorkian. He had a bit of an incident, came off track and visited the pit lane. I see he's back in there again once more, despite coming back onto the track. And wow, it's definitely not Armin Gavorkian's day at all.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, Tim, we saw something similar at VIR. I remember seeing him sitting off the track, I think in the run-up to Oak Tree, for a couple of laps, which was a bit strange. That one is for sure not a technical issue. That is carrying too much speed into Sunset Bend. And now he's come back in, presumably taking the faster pair, but I wonder if he's had another issue because I did see him stopped at Tower Turn there. So a tough break here in the season finale for Gavorkian, but we're seeing our championship leader under pressure here. And as Eric was mentioning, I think Zavadil's not too keen to really race too hard, as we now see James tumbling down the order. I think he'd probably be pretty content to let Floyd Kerr go here, given his championship position. But Floyd is definitely laying the pressure on heavy here. I think he knows probably the position that Zavadil's in, and he wants to take advantage of that, go run up and challenge Lukens as we get a replay of what happened to Mike James here in the Aston Martin. Saw him have a spin at VIR. Is he taking a... Ooh, just caught the inside wall. It's not, as with a lot of Sebring, it's not a continuous, smooth curve. There's not much about Sebring that you could describe as smooth, is there, Tim? But
no, definitely not.
But certainly the inside wall at Sunset is not one. That one exception that fits the rule there. But yeah, so tough for James there. He's lost some ground. Not sure if he'll have enough damage to need to pit, but that certainly won't help him as we see. I believe that's Keltner on the fight back behind Jeremy Davis, popped out, had a look, but didn't make the move happen. They're squabbling over 14th place, but it's a big gaggle of cars here, including a recovering Kenny Schmid. This is from 9th on back to Keltner, as we mentioned, in 15th, all right there together. Schmid looking now to make it happen on Michael Herring, but we've had a lot of action, Eric. Sorry to keep you waiting there, but we're about to see some action in the real world as well, with the Colorado Karting Tour season about to get underway. And where can people go if they want to check out the first race?
Well, the first place you'll want to go is ColoradoKartingTour.com to see the full schedule. The first races are going to start here in the Denver metro area of Colorado. Action Karting and IMI Motorsports Complex in Morrison, Colorado, and Dacono, respectively. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth between the two venues. And yeah, here in early April, snow's going to start melting, and we're going to have some good track conditions, and people are going to start driving on the track. People are already out practicing and getting excited. So the season is gearing up here as the iRacing League starts to wind down.
Yeah, it is always, you know, it's exciting when that snow starts melting in the real world, and you can finally start getting out again. I've been enjoying. We've finally gotten some above freezing weather here in Idaho, and I've been able to get out and actually enjoy the great outdoors. But certainly, it's nice to smell the real world grass instead of the virtual grass. But these this iRacing series is such a great way to bridge the gap, and you know, it's a great opportunity for these drivers to kind of keep their skills fresh in the off season when you're not going to be out karting in the real world or out autocrossing or doing SCCA events like a lot of these guys do. It's great to have. I don't know if you have any information on whether this league's going to be back next season or if we're going to see um, you know, some changes, but certainly I've enjoyed doing it the last couple of years, and I'm hopeful to see these guys back next time the snow starts falling.
I'm glad that you've enjoyed commentating on these, and you know the action on track really speaks for itself. It's been a really fantastic year and a lot of fantastic racing. We're having a great race right now. It's a long race, but there's already some great dicing and competition up front. You've got Lukens and Zavadil following each other closely, so I think we've got a great race ahead of us.
Absolutely, yeah, you're doing my job there, calling the race for me. But yeah, we're seeing some really great dicing, and this group just won't break up. Kenny Schmid's gotten to the front of it now. We see, I think that was Holubar on Botnik there. Botnik in the blue Porsche. Whoa, just kicks the back end out. That is not easy to catch in these GT4s. I've driven a lot of GT4 on iRacing, and that is not a position you ever want to find yourself in. They're 3 wide into turn 1, and it's the Aston Martin of Peterson who sends it the deepest, but Keltner's got the inside line, and it looks like Botnik's going to lose both of those positions. Ooh, careful there as Keltner slides through into 12th. I think he's got it done, but he leaves the space for Botnik. Now he's clear. So great move there by both Peterson and Keltner to move themselves forward. Obviously, Keltner on a bit of a recovery drive from that last spin. But well, Eric, it's been great to have you here. You're certainly welcome to stick around if you want to continue to provide some insights. But otherwise, we can let you go enjoy the race, and we might drag you back in a little later to you know, get an update on the championship picture.
I'll hang out in the wings if you guys want me. Feel free to rope me in, but I'm gonna sit back and watch the race and watch you guys do your work.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for joining us, Eric, and I, you know, can't say enough about Point Karting providing these really awesome prizes for these racers, and it's been a great season, and let's close it out strong.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for joining us in the Colorado Karting Tour.
No problem. Thank you so much, Eric. And that is Eric Gunderson from Point Karting. Point Karting, as we've mentioned several times, providing the prizes, and I know a couple of the drivers in the series race with Point Karting, including reigning series champion Rob Hubrex, who is holding on to that title for as long as he can. I imagine he's going to be savoring the remaining, what is it, 47, 46 minutes of this race, Tim, where he can call himself reigning Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Series champion.
Oh, definitely, and quite possibly, you know, where we'll run an extra bit of a final lap of the time will extend past the hour mark. I'm sure he'll be clinging hold to those dying seconds, like say, being able to call himself the reigning champion. But wow, just see Kelderman now on the bit of an attack here against Kerr, but just having to lift out the Aston of Kerr, just holding on a bit there.
I think, yeah, I think we missed something in there, Tim, because Kelderman was actually ahead of Floyd Kerr.
He was,
and just gave that position back. I think that happened while we were talking with Eric, but Oh, did he catch a little too much curve, I wonder? No, carry too much. Oh, that's easy to do. We actually did really well to hang on to it there because it's quite easy to send yourself spearing off into the tires under the bridge. So that's a good catch by Kelderman, who's clearly pushing. You know, his fate isn't really in his hands as far as the championship is concerned. You know, he can only pick up the pieces if Zavadil has trouble. But clearly, you know, I could be mistaken, but when I was looking at the points earlier, I'm pretty sure I saw that Kelderman has not had a win yet this season. He's second in the championship just from consistently finishing second or third, but hasn't had that elusive victory. So he's clearly pushing hard to try and secure one in the final race of the season.
As you say, Cadman just has to be there to pick up the pieces and currently just keeping in contention, you know, certainly not off the back of Zavadil at all. And well, they are dropping a little bit further behind the gap between Zavadil and Kerr, around about 3 seconds at the moment. As Lukens and Zavadil start to pull away at the front end, and I think Zavadil will surely just be happy to sit behind Lukens, bide his time, and don't worry about taking the victory because it doesn't need to here. It's all about just closing out the championship for Zavadil, and I'm sure that's what will be going through his mind. But then equally, these are racers. They want to, you know, gain positions. They love taking the victory, as even so, you know, non-real life racers do. You know, those that are just, you know, purely in the virtual sim world of racing. And well, I'd be interested to see how Zavadil plays this one out. Maybe a little bit of pit stop tactics might come into the mix for him to get the jump on. Oh, hello. A big incident there in the midfield.
Jeremy Davis, Aaron Botnick, and I believe... Oh, no! Don't do that. Oh. Well, I think Michael Herring was the third Porsche already in there, and Mike James was the unfortunate victim of Aaron Botnick trying to recover there. I think, oh, we caught his splitter on the curb there, it looked like. I think Botnick may have been blinded by Jeremy Davis, but you really need to be watching your relative in situations like that. So he gets a slow run out of turn number 1. And, oh, yeah, he just didn't realize that, I think that's Michael Herring in the black 14 Porsche was there, and Jeremy Davis, the innocent victim, at that stage. Yeah, that's just, that's a tough deal, because, you know, Botnick is just following the racing line at that point. It does kind of tuck around that kink in the corner. The trouble was that Michael Herring had the run because of Botnick's poor exit of turn 1, and thought to stick his nose up the inside, and unfortunately the door kind of closed there. So tough break for all 4 of these drivers. That's not what you want at this stage of an hour-long race. But we were talking about this battle for the lead, Tim, and you know, well, for one, I know that Zavadil and Lukens practice together. They're teammates in the RM solo team. I'd imagine they'll be in communications with each other as well. But you know, Zavadil's not going to take any unnecessary risks. But at the same time, you have to believe that Lukens is going to be cognizant of Zavadil's position in the championship. I said that. And Zavadil's made contact with Lukens there. Well, it doesn't really completely invalidate my point, because there wasn't much Lukens could have done there to help his teammate out. That was just Zavadil deep on the brakes from what I could tell. It was a tough camera angle to make out exactly what was going on, but we'll get a replay here from on board with Zavadil. It looked like, I don't know if Lukens was on the brakes early or Zavadil, if he just missed his braking marker or was just caught off guard for a second. But fortunately for Zavadil, that's not going to be a ton of damage with the new iRacing damage model. These GT4 cars are pretty robust, but that'll get your attention. I can tell you that much.
Well, if Savador's feeling a little bit sleepy, you know, maybe a bit fatigued. He certainly isn't now. That would have woken him straight up, and well, it just goes to show that you're only a moment away from a mistake here at Sebring. It's just never lets up at all. I mean, the only slight respite you get is this section at the moment down the Ullman Straight, but even then, you constantly need to be prepping yourself and just thinking about getting this entry into Sunset Bend, where you see just how bumpy it is through there as the cars almost skip across the concrete heading round there. It really illustrates just how bumpy it is at this track and how much concentration it requires. There's literally no let up around the whole lap, as I say, other than really the Ullman Straight. But then even then, you're thinking about Sunset, and it can, within a blink of eye, as we've seen, unfortunately for Zavadil, it can all be undone and go wrong so quickly.
Yeah, the famous camera angle from kind of parallel to the exit of Sunset, or to the apex of Sunset rather, kind of looking perpendicular to the bridge that goes over it. And you know, if you're a spectator at Sebring, you can stand there. And the year I went to Sebring, I'm pretty sure I just stood there kind of at the exit of Sunset for hours. It must have been. It's just crazy to watch the cars go over the bumps. And honestly, you know, you talk of great corners in American motor racing, which we've talked some this year, and you know, Sunset's got to be among the great corners in all of racing. I mean, there's no one fast line because it's dependent on how your car's set up and how it handles the bumps and how much downforce it's got. And it's 180-degree corners, so you're not going to really be single apexing it anyway. It's just it's just a really fantastic corner, and you can get a great visualization of it in iRacing, as well as, you know, if you're ever fortunate enough to go to see it in real life. But right now, Bruce Lucan suddenly finds himself staked to a comfortable lead, with this battle happening about 5 seconds behind him now, Tim.
Yeah, Lucan's in a little bit of a bubble by himself, whereas these three battling over the last 2 places on the podium here from Sebring. Yeah, incredibly close. You could nearly throw a blanket over them. Half a second covering 3 cars. As we head, well, here we go. Trying to get 3 wide, and no, Zavadil. Is he going to get the move done? I think he has there, Tyler.
Yeah, that's the top 2 in the championship going at it right there. So if there was anyone Zavadil was going to be aggressive dealing with, you'd have to imagine it'd be Ezra Kelderman. But you know, I'm sure these 2 drivers know what's at stake. But as we've said, they're both pushing hard. They both want to win this race. And Zavadil, through now on Kelderman, sets his sights on the Aston Martin of Floyd Kerr.
It's given Kerr just a bit of breathing space now. Be interested to see what he can do in the Aston Martin Vantage, and in terms of being able to pull away, maybe. He's got a bit of a pocket of around about 1.1 seconds over Zavadil in the McLaren right now, and it'll be interesting to see if he can extend that gap and just pull away and get away from what I'm sure is going to be the battling Zavadil and Kelderman as the race progresses. I mean, 23 minutes completed, so we've got 37 left here remaining. Still everything very much to play for. It's still a long race, you know, if you think about this, the other format that we run in this championship, you know, we've still got the whole entirety of a race to go, effectively. I think it'll be, it's definitely going to be an interesting one, and also got a few other battles happening up and down the field. This is another one, Schmid and Keltner.
Yeah, 2 drivers on a recovery here after they both spun independently on lap 1. This is Keltner working on Kenny Schmid for 9th position. And, of course, as we saw 1 and 2 in the championship battling, this is 4 and 3 in the championship. Keltner sits ahead of Schmid in the championship, and as we heard Eric say, it you know, would take a significant crash for Keltner to lose out to Kenny Schmid, I think. But doesn't mean these two guys aren't, for one, of similar pace and aren't going to continue to fight hard here as Keltner putting heavy pressure on Kenny Schmid. And you know, we haven't really talked about, ooh, as Schmid runs awfully close to the tires there. But we haven't talked a ton about the differences between the cars here specifically, Tim, but it's certainly, just looking at the timing tower, seems like the Porsches maybe at a bit of a disadvantage here as Kenny Schmid goes for a major slide there. Lucky to hang on to it there. He's flashing the headlights. There certainly didn't look like there was contact or anything, but that was...
Keltner clipped the wall on the entry into turn 1. However, I mean, unless it just distracted Schmid a little bit, but other than that, you know, Schmid, you know, there's a comfortable gap between the pair of them. Maybe the replay here might be able to give us some answers. Maybe it's just a little bit of his distraction of what was happening in front of him that was enough just to unsettle it. Maybe the application of the brakes, which of course makes the front end just dig in that a little bit and allows the rear end to become a bit more looser. Of course, the engines in these cars, well, in the Porsche, most certainly is in the middle. You know, it's more towards the rear of the car, not fully like its you know, older sister, the Porsche 911, where the engine literally is in the rear of the car, but it just makes the front end dig in and makes the rear end a bit lighter and allows for that twitchiness and sliding the rear end around. And maybe that's just what's caught Kenny Schmid out a little bit there.
Yeah, certainly tough break for Kenny as he, excuse me, as he loses out in that battle with Keltner. But we see the battle for second raging on. Now it's Zavadil putting the pressure on Floyd Kerr. Floyd's done really well to hold this position. It looked like Kelderman was laying the pressure on for much of the first part of this race. Now it's Zavadil's turn, and we know Zavadil's got a little bit more pace in hand as he jumps to the inside in turn number 1, and that might just be job done. He'll have the inside line for the next corner, and I think he's going to get it here. Yes, he does. Now Kelderman tried to follow Zavadil through there, didn't quite get the overlap there on Floyd Kerr, so he'll have to wait a little bit longer. But good move there by Zavadil, kind of one of the classic Sebring overtaking opportunities. And he's going to have a tall order to catch Bruce Lukens, who's been putting in some great laps and distancing himself from this pack.
It's going to be interesting to see with Kelderman. I mean, Lassie wants this for Zavadil to break away once again, and like you said, you know, what we were saying earlier, it's going to take something big for obviously Kelderman to take the victory in the championship, but Kelderman needs to be there if that opportunity does arise. So it'd be desperate for Zavadil not to get away too far in front of him. But to do so, he needs to dispatch Kerr as quickly as possible. But then equally, Kerr has his own aspirations. He would love to get onto the podium in the final round. And there's such a tricky conundrum being played out here. And it's definitely the advantage to Zavadil there fully right now at this stage of the race, as we're not too far away from half race distance.
Ooh. Just a little bit of grass there for Floyd Kerr as they're coming up to the lap car. That's Ben Jolly in the Porsche. But Kerr just dipping the tires into the grass at the exit of Le Mans. Not an unusual sight by any means at Sebring, but not what you want to be doing on every lap. And something's happened to Kelderman. He's dropped way back from this group, and I'm wondering if he got a slowdown, which is possible at it's possible. Well, I wonder if you might have gone wide on the concrete on the entry to Le Mans. Is the only thing I can think of, unless he just had a bad run through Sunset. But yeah, we don't have any off tracks on the record for Kelderman, so tough to say. But that's definitely split him up from the two ahead of him, and he'll be struggling to get back into tow range.
I see that Despite Zavadil getting past, Kerr, I've just been keeping an eye on the gaps while you were talking there, Tyler, and I mean, Kerr is not letting Zavadil get away from him. Well, other than that slight mistake there, the curse of the commentator kicking in, and Kerr has really been staying on the coattails of Zavadil and looking to utilize Zavadil to drag him along, get away from the clutches of Keldman, who, as you mentioned, has just had his own issues through, I believe, Le Mans or Sunset, and I mean, Zavadil knows that he needs to close this race out, as we've said a few times, and Kerr can maybe sense this, and equally that could allow him to head up into second place. But it'll be interesting to see how this progresses as the race goes on. Equally, we know Zavadil, he is no slouch, and ultimately being a racer would love to close out the season with a strong finish. It's definitely fascinating and our closest battle on track right now.
Well, the thing to consider is the slipstream is extremely powerful in these GT4 cars. They don't put out a lot of power, so it's so difficult to break that toe. And equally, it's extremely beneficial to be, the car behind in the slipstream because you'll just get pulled along. So Floyd Kerr, yeah, maybe he's not as quick as Zavadil if they were each running independently on their own, but he can absolutely keep up in the tow. And they both put in some pretty quick laps that last time around and closed down the gap to Lukens. Ooh, man, we are seeing a lot of guys having major wiggles through Sunset. That was Trace Walker there getting sideways. He might have clipped the inside wall as well. I saw Danny Lopez getting a little wiggle on ahead of him, but Trace definitely had it step out a little bit more. As we've got the first of our pit stops, it's Peterson in the Aston Martin who's heading down pit lane. So that is out of 11th position, or he's currently in 11th position. And that will, I think, be the first of the scheduled service. We have had cars in pit lane for damage repairs. In fact, everybody from 14th on back has been in pit lane, but I don't know that any of those were strategic or scheduled. If they were, it looks like Aaron Botnick's was a reasonably short stop, and Sherman's was not terribly long as well. But Holubar, James, Jolly, Gavorkian have all had lengthy stays in the pit lane, so they are not on winning strategy, as it were. But we've also got Michael Herring in the pit lane, so that'll be a scheduled stop for him as well. And looking at it, yeah, I'm pretty sure Peterson, Herring, and Botnick have made scheduled pit stops at this point. But back up front.
Interestingly,
sorry,
for
Tim,
you, Tyler, Zavadil, that the fastest sector one of anyone on this lap. I mean, Lukens is starting to respond a little bit to that gap shrinking, although he has got a healthy advantage at nearly 4.9 seconds by taking the fastest sector 6 of anyone so far. However, it was only just fractionally quicker than what Zavadil was, so Zavadil definitely on the chase. Close that gap over to his teammate Lukens ahead.
Yeah, and you can see that gap closing again. It's clear that Zavadil is good in the early stages of the lap, but Floyd Kerr is not letting up the pressure. I think that's honestly a mistake by Floyd here. Obviously, needs to stick with Zavadil and to make advantage of that tow, but he'd be better off probably following Zavadil up if Zavadil can close the gap to Lukens. We saw Kerr in second for a while and wasn't really able to do much to chip away at that gap. But now he's got Zavadil pulling him along. That gap is coming down for both of them. So I think Floyd here needs to recognize that, tailing Zavadil is a good thing, and fighting him might not be the best thing for either of them.
It's see the gap just grows out a little bit there as Zavadil finally. It's a little bit of fresh air between himself and Kerr right now, but Just having a bit of a look, as you mentioned, we've had everyone from 12th downwards have taken to pit row, and this is a little bit of an interesting battle. It starts to develop here between Trace Walker and Keltner, not far behind.
Yes, indeed. And Keltner, working his way back forward, has been closing that gap. Late Trace Walker Scott working his way out of tower here now. You can see that is Lopez and Bruzzi up ahead. Actually, I believe that's Lopez and Walker. Or no, sorry. Lopez and a lapped car ahead of Walker there. Not sure which of the lapped cars that is. That
I think
is
that
Rob
is
Holubar.
you've
Rob
just beat me to
Holubar.
it.
Yep, in the 10 car, running in 16th. So, Rob, having already come down pit road for repairs, is well out of position there, but clearly has some decent pace sticking with Danny Lopez as Brian Bruzzi ducks to pit lane from 6th place.
Very interesting to see where Bruzzi comes out. He's one of our front runners to head to the pits, and keeping one eye of what sort of window he may come out in. I expect maybe to come out, but he should actually get out from the position he is now, which is 10th place. I mean, he's credit where credit's due. He's had a really, really strong race so far. He's already up 9 places. That's for his current position of 10th. He might drop another one potentially to Davis, who is in 11th, the Porsche driver in the 403 machine. However, even so, that is an absolutely stunning result so far by Bruzzi, and Davis yet to stop. And he is the fastest, well, the top of all of our cars who have pitted so far.
Yeah, the only one still. Is that right? No, that's not right. Peterson's still on the lead lap. My bad. Here we see this battle still carrying on into tower turn once again for Keltner. The gap's come down a little bit, but now Trace Walker Scott has the advantage of a tow from the 2 Porsches ahead of him. So this might be a confluence for all 3 cars for position right here. And of course, the lap car, Rob Holubar, hopefully Rob recognize. Ooh, race leader in pit lane. Bruce Lukens has decided to come and make
Curtin
his
as well.
pit stop. Yes, everybody up front. So this must be, I would bet this is everybody running to the limit of the fuel here, taking the fuel as far as it would go. As we see,
Well, Zavadil's carried on though, so it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah,
We saw how hard he was pushing, so clearly, I mean, if he was fuel saving while pushing that hard, it would have been well, absolutely amazing feat from him. However,
well, don't forget though, for much of the opening stage of the race, he was just following Bruce Lukens around. And that
yes,
could have been a very significant amount of fuel saving he was doing there. Now, you hope that he's done his calculations right and is not going to run out of fuel here, because that would be extremely unfortunate. Having to tow back to pit lane would be very costly for Lawrence here. But he's not the only one to have stayed out. Rob Kubrecht's reigning series champion has stayed out as well. So they're just extending this by 1 lap here. Interestingly, and this may have changed with recent iRacing updates, but it used to be that the McLaren was the thirstiest of the GT4 cars by a not insignificant amount. So clearly these 2 McLaren drivers doing enough to save some fuel here, as they have stretched it a lap longer than just about everybody, besides
Davis is headed in, so he was the last of the runners to yet to head to the pits. So it is literally just Zavadil and Hubrecht who've managed to eke this out to an extra lap, and Here comes Zavadil round sunset, and he should be in. Yeah, the way he's slowing up, it looks like he's going to be in.
Yes, yeah, well, when everybody is pit, it's clear that that's the fuel limit. There was no way that Zavadil was going to extend that an additional lap, but you know, he does duck in. I mean, maybe Hubrex knows something we don't, and he's been
There you
saving
go.
for the full race. But no, Hubrex is in as well. So everybody coming down to get their obligatory fuel load. See Danny Lopez here tailing Brian Brutzi. So he's managed to separate himself from Keltner in that round of pit stops, and Trace Walker Scott has lost out to both Keltner and Kenny Schmid. So maybe taking more fuel than necessary, or taking tires for Trace Walker Scott. 45 seconds stopped in the box compared to 23 to 27 seconds for everybody else. So I do wonder, Trace could have taken 4 tires there, and that would have extended the pit stop. We'll see how that plays out at the end of this, but certainly interesting to see him drop those places on pit road. As we see, Floyd Kerr has been separated from his tugboat. Lawrence Zavadil now almost 4 seconds up the road. Zavadil must have had a heck of an in and out lap there because he is trimmed away at Bruce Lucan's lead. And you know, we've talked already about what Lawrence Zavadil's mindset has got to be here, because obviously, you know, just needs to finish roughly where he is to secure that championship. But, you know, he's been so dominant this season with, you know, only a couple of losses on the record. He'll want to win one.
Certainly, and I mean, during that in lap, he took nearly a second out of Lukens. I know, you can see by going that extra lap, that means he would have had to have taken on less fuel. And in terms of the difference in being stationary, in fact, actually, Zavadil was stationary for, just having a bit of mental maths here, about 1.7 seconds. However, it was only 1.4 seconds actually quicker through the whole transition of the pit stop. So getting in, you know, as soon as you hit that line, switching on the pit limiter to when you head out once again. So it's definitely paying dividends, just that fuel savings you say early on that he was able to do when he was tucked up right behind Lukens, combined with that in lap as well. He's now close to Lukens, but also has dropped Kerr by quite a healthy margin, let's face it.
Yeah, that's don't get representative lap time there from Zavadil, but that lead is really it feels like excuse me, it feels like it's not gonna last here, Tim. With the way Zavadil's driving, he's pushing hard, but ooh, that's not gonna help. Oh boy.
Ooh.
Well, we talked earlier, we saw Kelderman do the same thing, and how easily it could end up with you in the tires, and Zavadil was even closer than Kelderman to ending up in the tires there.
It's a shame, really, for Zavadil, because it's undone all of his hard work of getting that, you know, amazing in lap, you know, obviously being able to extend his pit strategy by an extra lap, meaning it's having to take on less fuel to bring the car home. But my golly, he is pushing it so hard and risking it all potentially just to try and catch up to Lukens. But I think now as the gap extends out to nearly 5 seconds, we've got roughly about 16.5 minutes just coming up to left here of racing at Sebring. I think surely that's going to be done and dusted. It's going to take absolutely something mammoth and biblical for Zavadil to catch Lukens. And the way Lukens has just been consistently putting in the lap times, I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, I think everyone who's done iRacing or even real life racing has had that kind of demoralizing event happen to them, where, you know, you see the gap ahead of you and you're pushing and you're closing, and then you make that one mistake and all of that work is gone. and it just kills you because you know at that point that it's probably all for nothing. And unfortunately for Zavadil, I think he needs to recognize that that's probably not going to be a win on the cards for him today. Not ruling anything out because it's racing and anything can happen for sure, but with 15 minutes left, even if he is quicker than Lukens, he's just not that much quicker.
It's definitely not. It's looking pretty solid. But Lukens sets the fastest final sector of anyone out on track, so that's looking like second place. It's going to be the best that Zavadil can achieve. Just keeping Kurt at bay is going to be his main priority heading into the last stage of the race. I mean, just looking at Brucey here. Wow, a great result for him. He's at 13 places. Started at the back of the grid and now finds himself up in 6th place as we head into the last quarter of the hour.
Yeah, there really have been battles all throughout this field the entire way along. This one between Brucey and Lopez has been heating up since the round of pit stops. Lopez in the tow now of Brucey. He'll be getting a good tug along here, but the Porsche just not quite as quick in a straight line as the McLaren can be. But certainly he'll try and close the gaps in the corners and then keep with Brucey in the tows. It looks like Danny has the pace to maybe challenge Brian here for 6th place. I saw an off track for somebody behind them. I think it was Kenny Schmid, and it didn't seem to last long. Kenny a little ways back and not really under threat from Trace Walker-Scott at this point. Keltner is eyeing up these two, though. He'd like to have a piece of this and try and get back a couple of positions. It was a similar story of just consistent finishes that got Keltner up to 3rd in the championship at this point, and he'll just be trying to keep that streak going. I think he had a tough run at VIR, if memory serves, but he'll want to try and grab, I think, top 5 probably off the cards. I think Rob Hubrex is quick enough, but maybe see if he can sneak a top 6.
He's still, she was saying earlier, Tyler, still got around about, what, 13 minutes left to claim that title of being the reigning champion. And I think it maybe a little bit disappointed not to finish higher up at this season. However, I mean, it has been some great performances from Zavadil, and as you say earlier, Kelderman just missed it consistent, been putting in those consistent podium finishes, and that's how he's been able to finish in second, what looks like it's going to be 2nd place in the championship, despite not actually winning a race. It's, I mean, that is one of the key things for race drivers is consistency, and Kelderman just has that in absolute abundance this season.
Quite right, and the funny thing is we talk about, oh, something's happened to Kenny Schmid. What's going on there? He's just disappeared to the pit lane.
He's had an incident somewhere out on track. Looks like he's come off track a couple of times, and then had a bit of a bump with the barriers. Let's find out. This is into turn 1. Does he clip the wall on the inside?
Oh no, he's already started to lose it there. Carries it a little wide. Grass, concrete, or Armco, I guess. But yeah, that's tough break for Kenny Schmid there. And it's just, well, I can't imagine it's been fun for Kenny not being in the championship hunt. I say that he came into the season 4th, or the finale 4th, but you know, with the way he and Rob performed last season, I'm sure they'll have wanted to be higher up. But you know, these RM solo guys have come in and just raised the level of competition here. Yeah, Kenny just a little wide and yeah, a little too late to correct. So tough break for Kenny, but hopefully we see him back next season. But you know, these RM solo guys have really raised the level of competition, and I feel a little bad because we keep highlighting Ezra Kelderman's consistency. Lawrence Zavadil in 6 rounds has won 4 of them, finished second in another, and just had a bad run in Daytona that really cost him some serious points in a double points race. So it's not to say that Zavadil hasn't been consistent with one bad race across 6, but certainly you know, that's why he's got the cushion he does in the championship.
Yes, it's always a bit of a tricky one, that, isn't it? It's just watch the battle right now between Walker Scott and Peterson, but it's when you've got a driver that is so dominant, like Zavadil, that when they do have one mistake, it's almost how can I put it? You know, it's almost exaggerated a bit because it's just as Walker Scott runs a bit wide there.
Yeah, that was scary moments for Peterson, who was coming up quickly on Trace Walker Scott, but both continue on with no damage done, just a little bit of an elevated heart rate, most likely.
Well, definitely, but Walker Scott in a bit of a precarious position now. The Aston Martin and Peterson looking for the overtake. Step back out a little bit.
Peterson has some pace here, and it does definitely take a minute to breathe a little bit and keep yourself calm after a moment like that. Cool yourself down. Surely Trace Walker Scott is recouping for a second, but we'll see if Peterson can hang on now, as it seems like Walker Scott's got his feet back under him, starting to pull a bit of a gap.
Coming inside the last 10 minutes, and starting to get a bit of pressure now from Walker Scott, with Peterson closing in here, Tyler, and having a bit of a look up and down the field. Also got, I think maybe something's happened to Lopez. Just watching, he's lost a big chunk of time there to Keltner.
Well, Keltner was closing on Lopez and Bruzzi. I don't know that he made any particular mistake. I think it's just a pace difference there. And it does seem now, with Keltner going through, that's not going to be a position for Danny Lopez to get back, but we'll see if he can close the gap back on Bruzzi, as both Peterson and Walker Scott sliding it through sunset there. But Walker Scott prevailing, but this battle hasn't gone away either. Peterson still putting the pressure on Trace here as they head into turn 1. And that Aston Martin is good on the brakes and good through turn 1. He's got the run up the inside. Can he get the move done on the brakes here? Yes, he can, and Trace Walker Scott falls back to 10th as Peterson grabs 9th position here in the closing few minutes of this race.
Walker Scott had a big switchy moment just on the apex of turn 1, where you saw the rear end just snap a little bit on him, and he had to apply a bit of brakes just to get the car resettled, and that's what just allowed Peterson just to really close up that gap and use that momentum to carry through and take that 9th position away from Walker Scott.
Yeah, definitely a classic Sebring move there. Great car positioning, and just seemed to have a better handle of it through turn number 1. It does seem like Trace is still struggling with the tires here, maybe after heating them up in that slide, but Peterson now carries on in 9th place. This is another big slide there for Trace. He is really hanging it out here, trying to keep up with Peterson, but what he really needs to do is kind of back it down a little bit, take it easy for a couple corners, and try and get the tires back to temp to make one last stab at closing back in on the Aston Martin. That's not what you want to be doing. As he slides it again through Le Mans, he is just absolutely ragging it out on the very limit here.
Scott just utilising all the rubber and some more, and not worried about them. They're definitely not his tyres to have to pay for or worry about, certainly in the sim world. And Whoa, nearly loses it in big fashion coming out of Sunset. Those rear tyres are definitely overheated and moving away from him. And as you're saying, Tyler, just needs to rein it in a little bit, allow the tyres to cool down before he mounts another attack. But, well, it's the last race of the season. We're heading into the last 6 minutes here at Sebring, and Scott's just out to have a bit of fun and just drift it on the corner exit and enjoy this last few laps of the season.
Yeah, as things wind down, I almost wonder at this point if Trace is just putting on a show for us. He's, you know, seems to be sideways through every corner here, but yeah, things winding down, and does seem as though most of the championship positions are pretty settled. We do see Keltner putting some pressure on Brutzi here. Keltner does hold currently that 3rd place in the championship, and be wanting to not make any silly moves here and potentially jeopardize that, but in good shape. They work their way onto the Ullman Straight. Ooh, careful guys, little side-by-side contact wouldn't be good for anyone. But Keltner eases ahead as they head into Sunset. Brutzi showing his nose on the inside and does slip back alongside. Keltner forced a little wide. Oh no, there's contact there. Oh, that was close for Keltner. Oh, that could have been seriously bad news for the man 3rd in the championship. He does need to get that cone out from under his car, but yeah, I think Brutzi just drove it in a little too deep there. He got alongside, but then didn't really leave enough room for Keltner on exit. Tried to get on throttle, and oh, Keltner was there, wasn't he?
I'm amazed how Keltner managed to keep it out the pit wall. It was looming incredibly closely, and luckily he didn't manage to lose too much time by take evasive action to drive around it to rejoin the track. That would have saved him quite a bit of time in comparison to a full trip down the pit lane. He would have lost a fair old chunk of time, but well, we might be closing out the season in terms of minutes left. However, we're not closing out the action, it seems, here, Tyler, in these final stages.
No, lots of drivers still scrapping for every position they can get. And Zavadil's closed down the lead just a little bit. It's not going to be enough, barring issue for Lukens, but he has managed to chip away. It's back down under 4 seconds when it was up as high as 5 after he made his mistake in the earlier stages of this stint. But yeah, there you can see he's been chipping away a decent amount, but with only probably 2 laps remaining, that's not going to be enough. And that time Lukens was faster anyway, seemed to put pedal back down. Doesn't want to give Zavadil the wrong idea. I think he's letting up for him.
So, maybe even a bit of the photo finish, for the team coming into play, but well, I mean, Lukens, he's looked like a commanding position ever since that incident with Zavadil, where he just tapped him in the rear, funnily enough, to exactly where they are right now, where Zavadil seems to maybe stay over cookie a little bit. He's just been comfortably hot-lapping, I would say, the race since then, and you do have to wonder if Zavadil hadn't made that mistake, just sort of what sort of finish we would have been in for here at the final round of the season.
Yeah, it certainly could have been exciting, but that's racing. People make mistakes, and if it were predictable, no one would watch it. So,
but that is very true. That is very true. That's why we love racing.
Absolutely. Zavadil working his way down. They'll be back onto the Ullman Straight before they know it, and picking up the white flag when they come round Sunset this next time, as the hour has ticked away awfully quickly, hasn't it, Tim?
Yeah, it's always the case. Not too sure where the time has gone this past hour, but as we head down into the last minute, can you believe it, of the championship? This is all it comes down to, and well, yeah, you can really just see from that camera angle just how bumpy Sunset Bend is as the car actually bouncing through the corner, and Lukens takes the white flag and 1 lap to go.
Yeah, it's important to remember we won't, we most likely will not have official championship standings for you when the race is over. There's still penalties and protests to go through, and of course, um, some other calculations to factor in. So we won't be able to say with 100% certainty where everyone finishes as Danny Lopez runs wide into sunset, but we can tell you with pretty high confidence that if things stay the way they are, it is going to be Zavadil from Kelderman from Keltner. So won't be able to say for sure, but we will be probably talking as if those are our top 3 in the championship once all is done today, as we see Floyd Kerr pushing along. He's actually under pressure now from Kelderman. That gap has come down significantly in the last few laps, with Kelderman putting on the heat here to the Aston Martin driver, trying to grab one last podium before the season's out, but he's not got many more passing opportunities to really do it, does he, Tim?
Oh, it's probably the best opportunity if he can hook it up all correctly. It's going to come down into Sunset Bend, but it's going to mean he's going to have to get a really, really good exit out of Le Mans to ensure he's tucked right behind him down Ulm Straight, so he can pull out at the last minute and head up the inside into Sunset Bend. But having said that, as we've alluded to earlier in the race, Tyler, there are a couple of options, new or more potentially open to you in terms of the lines that you take through Sunset Bend. So even then, it is not always guaranteed.
Yeah, in the meantime, though, we've got Bruce Lukens coming around to claim race victory for RM Solo. His teammate Lawrence Zavadil following along behind. That'll be a championship win almost certainly for Zavadil. And through sunset, Kelderman's got the inside move done. Kelderman will grab the podium in a last gas pass on Floyd Kerr. What a move from Ezra Kelderman there. He won't get the championship, but he will get another podium to round out the season, and he will get some excellent second place prizes from Point Karting. So fantastic effort there by Ezra Kelderman. Really just sent it in on the brakes. Kerr missed the entrance a little bit. He kind of took it as if there wasn't going to be anyone there, and Kelderman said, actually, I would like to be there. And he stuck it up the side and grabbed that position. So great pass from Ezra Kelderman, and he'll almost certainly claim second in the championship as well. Keltner has also crossed the line for what will unofficially be third in the championship for him. As we have Peterson working his way through here in 9th place with Trace Walker Scott now a ways behind. That battle did fizzle out a little bit, understandably, with Trace. Looked like he slid it through sunset again. He just keeps on drifting around Sebring International Raceway. Gives a little wiggle after he's already crossed the line. But he will round out his season with a top 10. Jeremy Davis, one of the folks who help organize this league.
Oh, Davis is running out of fuel.
Yeah, he'll creep across the line in 11th, but good guy, Jeremy. And Herring and Botnick will round out the field, I believe. That's all we're waiting on. Ben Jolly still yet to cross the line for the last time, but once they do, we will get those official race results for you. Obviously, won't have the qualifying or the championship results, excuse me, for you, but we will have the race results to bring up for you. And there are your race results. Bruce Lukens is your race winner for the season finale ahead of Lawrence Zavadil, your champion. Ezra Kelderman rounds out the podium with that great final corner pass on Floyd Kerr. Rob Hubrex brings it home in 5th for a top 5 to finish off his season. Brian Bruzzi behind him, Michael Keltner in 7th, then Danny Lopez, Zach Peterson, and Trace Walker-Scott, as we mentioned, grabs that top 10. Jeremy Davis, we saw running out of fuel, but still comes home 11th. Michael Herring in 12th. Aaron Botnick, 13th. Mark Sherman, 14th. Rob Holubar, 15th. Mike James, 16th. Ben Jolly, 17th. Tough day for Kenny Schmid. He grabs 18th. Then it's Armand Gavorkian and Jeff Mayers rounding out the field. So I bet we have some drivers waiting for interviews. Indeed we do. And who else to start with but our season champion, Lawrence Zavadil.
Hey guys.
Well, Lawrence, it wasn't a win today, which is statistically unusual with how your season has gone, but that's why you're the champion. Grabbing a 2nd place is just about as good as first when you've got a nice cushion heading into the last race, isn't it?
Yep, definitely going into this race, I knew I really just needed to take it easy, and I don't know what happened in the middle of the race. I just decided, you know what, let's just push this, and I made a few too many mistakes, obviously. But I had a great season so far. Really big shout out to Colorado Karting Tour for putting on this series, and really big shout out to Point Karting for, the prizes that were up for grabs there. And shout out to my family and, everybody watching, and, thanks for announcing, guys. You guys did a really great job all season, and I really appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you. Getting the thanks out of the way early here. But we do have to ask about that moment. You made a little bit of contact with Bruce's bumper heading into the hairpin. What did you miss your braking point, or did he brake a little early? What was going on there?
I was trying to save fuel a little bit too much. Broke a little bit too late.
Yeah, I've been there in the GT4s. You try and lift and coast, and suddenly you're braking 50 feet deeper than you thought you would be. But fair enough. Yeah, we saw you go the extra lap there, but ahead of just about everybody else. Was that the plan from the beginning? Was just to sit behind Bruce and save fuel there?
Yeah, pretty much. Just really felt like saving fuel against Bruce, and then get that extra lap in, and in the end it worked out. I did make up a second on him in the pits, but I was too far behind anyway at that point. But it was a great race.
It certainly was fun to watch, and tremendous season, of course. With the 4 wins and 6 podiums over the course of 7 races. That's that's a championship season, isn't it? But before we go, what was the season highlight there for you?
Season highlight. I really liked last week at VIR, passing Ezra in the last couple of laps there. That was probably my highlight, was making that pass, and it worked out really well and really boosted my odds of winning the championship.
For sure, that was a lot of fun for us as well. We love the exciting finishes. But Lawrence, thank you so much for a tremendous season, and congratulations on your well-earned championship. Hope you enjoy your prizes from Point Karting. Is there? I know you already got the thanks out of the way, but is there anyone you missed that you need to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, you know what? I should also give a shout out to VRS and Pascalis Gerkis for, coaching me. And then I should also give a shout out to RM Solo for, just having the best group of guys out there to help practice with and train with. And, if anybody in the Colorado area or really any area wants to join RM Solo and, hang out with us and practice, you're more than welcome to.
Awesome, Lawrence. Thanks again, and congratulations once again on your championship. Lawrence Zavadil, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
And Tim, I'm going to grab for you, hopefully he unmutes for us, but our race winner, Bruce Lukens.
Hey, how's it going?
Wow, Bruce, congratulations on winning the final round of the season. Wow, looks like it was a tough start to the race. The first half you had your teammate Zavadil right nipping at your heels constantly, and then there was that little bit of contact where he just just misjudged his brake marker. Were you a little bit worried when you felt the tap from behind?
Yeah, that was one of those moments where like I saw him coming up behind me real quick in the braking zone, and I was like, uh-oh, and tried to like delay turn in a little bit, but yeah, luckily it was really light, and right afterwards we were on Discord, and like, he was apologizing for like, oh, I was focused too much on fuel saving. But yeah, I mean, it was a good race. A little boring after that Lawrence incident, but it was fun.
I was going to say, from that point onwards, was it just a case of just trying to hot lap the car and ensuring that you maintained the margin that you did have over Lawrence?
Yeah, it was before I went into pit, after we had the little bit of contact, I was focused just on, hitting my marks, trying to be quick. And then after we pit, I saw him make a mistake in my relative. I saw it start going up. So after that, I knew I could kind of take it easy, back off a bunch, and just kind of bring it home without risking anything. But definitely for a while, I had to just be super focused and just try to nail every apex to make sure he doesn't catch up.
And before we let you go, Bruce, anyone who want to give a shout out to at all?
The whole family, RM Solo, and you guys for putting this on, and Colorado Karting Tour, Point Karting. So thanks for having me this season.
Absolute pleasure. That's Bruce Lucas, your race winner here today at Sebring.
And we've got one more driver to talk to today, and that is our championship runner-up and race podium finisher, Ezra Kelderman.
Hey guys.
Well, it wasn't quite the championship winning pace out there today, Ezra, and not not able to grab that race win either, but certainly a strong effort from you, and a phenomenal last lap pass on Floyd Kerr there. It was pretty much sums up your season, doesn't it? Just solid, consistent finishes.
Yeah, I was kind of dreading this race. Never been a fan of Sebring, but I think early on in the practice I was somewhat close to Lawrence and Bruce on pace, but I didn't figure I would be able to hold it. So struggled in most of that race, made some mistakes. Floyd was quick in battling, and I know he didn't want to get in the way of things, so kudos to him. And then like the last maybe 3 or 4 laps, I was like, oh, I'm racing right now, I need to focus and get it together. I just couldn't get it together, and then I noticed that Floyd was struggling on his tires, so I'm like, well, there's a little bit of time left, I'm just gonna push and focus. And yeah, it was almost too little too late, but finally tried to do that inside move on the last turn to see if it would stick, and he wasn't getting grip and somehow pulled it off.
Yeah, we were talking throughout the race how tremendous a corner sunset is there. Was it I haven't driven it in the McLaren. Does it handle the bumps well, or is it did you kind of have to massage it over those famous Sebring bumps?
I was trying different. I was trying the inside, and I was kind of trying the middle. Not to say I was doing it on purpose. I was inconsistent constantly on that last turn, but I was finding on the inside I was definitely getting airborne, but I was getting enough rotation from that I kind of liked that better, but I'm sure it was chewing up my tires, and as long as I was keeping the car under control, I kind of liked that inside line.
Yeah, certainly it was well, it worked out for you in the end, that's for sure. But well, that'll do it for you this season, and for everybody this season. But is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we close out the championship here?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to my girlfriend Rachel for watching, and the Galileo project team, and as always, thanks to you guys for running the stream and the excellent commentary.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us in the booth, Ezra, and congratulations once again on your runner-up finish in the championship and your podium out there today. Ezra Kelderman, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
And that will do it for us here today and this season for the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series. Really enjoyed broadcasting this series once again. Fantastic group of drivers, and always great to have them on here on Apex Racing TV. Do have to mention, if you want to catch any more awesome iRacing content, you can find it here on Apex Racing TV. Give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel or any of our social media channels at Apex Racing TV. You won't miss any awesome iRacing action. But that'll do it for the Colorado Karting Tour. Thanks again to Eric Gunderson from Point Karting for joining us in the booth today and throughout the season, and for, of course, providing the awesome prizes for the drivers in the championship. And thanks to everybody watching for following along this season. But for everybody here at Apex Racing TV, for myself, for Tim, and for John, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.